Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This one is on congruent figures. You'll find this in the 8th grade book, section 2.4. All right, so our learning intentions for this one is to understand the concept of congruent figures. You'll be able to identify congruent figures and describe a sequence of rigid motions between two congruent figures. So what is a rigid motion? A rigid motion is a way of moving a figure without changing its size or shape. So we've been working with rigid motions. That is like your rotations and your translations and your reflections. Those things that we have been working on the last 3 sections of this, those are all rigid motions. So we move those around, but we don't change their size and we don't change their shape. So think of it like picking up a cookie cutter shape and moving it around. So if you had your dough sitting out and you put the cookie cutter here, and then maybe I move it over here, and then I do another cookie over here and over here, my cookie doesn't change, just the location of where I'm putting it changes. Okay, so that's how you can think of rigid motions, is we're just moving them around, but we're not going to change anything about their size or their shape. So there's 3 different things that you're going to be focusing on in this lesson, and that's congruent figures, congruent angles, and congruent sides. So congruent figures are figures that have the exact same size and shape, and one figure can be placed onto the other using one or more rigid motions so that they match up perfectly. Again, that's really what we've been working on with translations and rotations and reflections. We would be able to make some different, one or more different rigid motions to be able to place those directly back on top of each other. So this is kind of something that you want to look at here. So it says corresponding angles of congruent figures are congruent. So if you see these little arcs, which we'll talk about in a minute, that tells you that these are congruent angles, and corresponding sides of congruent figures are congruent. So that means if this side and this side have the same angle shapes, that means those sides are also going to be congruent. And if you remember, congruent means equal. So when we're talking about congruent figures, it means equal figures, equal angles, equal sides. So congruent angles are angles that have the same measure. They have the same measures. That means the same number of degrees. Okay, and so the matching arcs within the triangles indicate congruent angles. So that's what I was just saying up here. See how this has one arc and this has one arc. That means angle B and angle E are congruent. This one has 2. This one has 2. That means angle C and angle F are congruent. This one has 3. This one has 3. So A and D are congruent. Okay, and this is how we would write it. We'd say angle A is congruent to angle D. Angle B is congruent to angle E. Angle C is congruent to angle F. So then you have congruent sides. Congruent sides are sides that have the same length. Again, kind of what we just talked about up here. So if we know that these 2 angles, looks like I cut that off. If these 2 angles are the same, if A and D are congruent and C and F are congruent, that means that this side is also congruent. And so we would just write like AB. So we'd write AB with a line over it. That's just telling us side AB is congruent to side DE. And side BC is congruent to side EF, and side AC is congruent to DF. And this symbol here is congruent too. So you guys are going to look at a couple of these. You're going to try it. So this symbol here means triangle. So triangle DEF is a translation 1 unit left and 5 units down from triangle what? So if I went 1 unit left and 5 units down, it would be a translation of MNP. So that means that triangle DEF and MNP are congruent. So you're going to look at this one, And make sure when you're writing a congruent statement, make sure that you list the vertices of the figures in the correct order. So like A, B, C, I wouldn't write it as C, A, B. I would write it in alphabetical order. A, B, C, and then D, E, F, M, N, P. So make sure you're writing them in order. Then you're going to do a must try here. You're going to read through this one. Nothing for you to fill in. Read through this to understand how to describe a sequence of rigid motions, and then there's a must try section right there.